It's Henry Louis Gates Jr. This thing keeps taking twists and turns. They asked Obama about it yesterday in the press conference. Jared, do we have a clip on that? Okay, you know what? Let's play that clip first, and then I'll come back and tell you the twists and turns in the story and why Obama's taking heat on this as well. Clip number 8.
Recently, Professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. was arrested at his home in Cambridge. What does that incident say to you, and what does it say about race relations in America?
Well, I should say at the outset that Skip Gates is a friend, so I may be a little biased here. I don't know all the facts. What's been reported, though, is that the guy forgot his keys, jimmied his way to get into the house. There was a report called into the police station that there might be a burglary taking place. So far, so good, right? I mean, if I was trying to jigger into, well, I guess this is my house now, so it probably wouldn't happen. But let's say my old house in Chicago. Here I'd get shot. I don't know, not having been there and not seeing all the facts, what role race played in that. But I think it's fair to say, number one, any of us would be pretty angry. Number two, that the Cambridge police acted stupidly in arresting somebody when there was already proof that they were in their own home. And number three, what I think we know separate and apart from this incident is that there is a long history in this country of African Americans and Latinos being stopped by law enforcement disproportionately. And that's just a fact. As you know, Lynn, when I was in the state legislature in Illinois, we worked on a racial profiling bill because there was indisputable evidence that blacks and Hispanics were being stopped disproportionately. And that is a sign, an example of how, race remains a factor in the society. The fact of the matter is that, this still haunts us. And even when there are honest misunderstandings, the fact that blacks and Hispanics are picked up more frequently and oftentimes for no cause casts suspicion even when there is good cause.
All right. Now, first of all, I love his jokes there. And I like the word jimmied. Try to jimmy the door. That's old school. He says, this is my house now. Oh, I love when he said that. He said, if I was trying to get in, though, they'd probably shoot me. Did I tell you this story? Once I was in Washington, and I'm about 3 blocks from the White House, and I was just looking at it, and I wound up staring at it for like maybe 2-3 minutes because I was thinking of, I wonder how it was in the times of Lincoln. I don't know. I had this whole thing going on in my head. Unmarked SUV pulls up right across the street and just starts looking at me. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll stop looking at the White House, man. Okay, I saw enough. Calm down. Right, I don't know if they sensed I was Muslim or ex-Muslim, I don't know. But anyway, so he's quite right about that. So now on to Louis Gates. Now, he said some things that are very sensible here, Obama did. But one thing he said stuck out a little bit. He said the cops in this case acted stupidly. So now everybody's on fire over this. The cops in the case say, hey, wait a minute now, it's not right to accuse us of being stupid. That's not right. He doesn't know all the facts of this case, and he shouldn't be butting in. And we're really disappointed by his comments. The officer involved, Crowley, says, look, I'm 110% behind the president, but he doesn't know the facts of this case. So it was an interesting statement made by him. Now, on Crowley, it turns out he was the guy in charge of racial profiling at the department. That doesn't mean he was like, hey, let's racial profile that guy and that guy. No, he was in charge of giving the seminars on how not to do racial profiling. And to be fair to him, and everybody in the department and involved there says Crowley's a stand-up guy, and that and he was appointed by a former black commissioner of the police there, and they all say, look, we did it because he's the guy that the young officers learned from. Okay, now you want to jump in, JR, on that one? Okay, no, let me finish, and then we'll get JR's thoughts on this. Now the flip side to this is he was already, now according to Gates, he was already in the house. And I haven't seen the cops disputing that in any of the stories. In fact, when they asked Obama, hey, wait a minute now, your comments were a little controversial. He followed up today and said, quote, I have to say I'm surprised by the controversy surrounding my statement because I think it was a pretty straightforward commentary that you probably don't need to handcuff a guy, a middle-aged man who uses a cane, who's in his own home. Now, here comes the part that we talked about yesterday that is still unresolved. The cops say when we first asked him for ID, he became belligerent, he accused us of being racist, was yelling at us, and refused to give his ID. Okay. Now, if you refuse to give the ID, that's a real situation. But they said initially, now this is what the paper reports, and I read this from ABC News. Initially, he refused to give his ID. But he's apparently already inside the house, and at some point they get the ID from him. They realize it's his house. Well, then arresting him is pretty stupid. I mean, I can understand both sides getting heated. I can understand Gates being mad that, hey, this is my house. What the hell are you coming and bothering me for? I could see the cops saying, hey, wait a minute. I came here to see if somebody was busting into your house, and you're yelling at me and calling me a racist. Both sides get heated. It happens. We're human beings. But just because you got heated doesn't mean that you go and arrest the guy who's clearly sitting in his own house. All right, JR, thoughts?
Well, at least I guess until all the definite things come out, it's he versus he, right? We know that right now.
Right.
But then so little pieces get thrown. Like someone actually put it today out. There was things that pointed out that Crowley was in charge of anti-racial profiling at the department.
Right.
I don't care. I really don't.
That's what I thought you were going to jump in on. Why don't you care?
There's priests that are celibate. They screw women and little kids sometimes. Some of them do. There are caretakers that are supposed to take care of elderly people. They beat them up sometimes. That's their specialty. There's not beating them up, but taking care of people. There's politicians that talk about morality and staying with your wife. We just talked about. They cheat on their wives. People can be experts and preach certain things. Doesn't mean that they always follow it themselves. I don't care. I realize
right.
He's still human. He still may have his biases. He still has all these things that happen to him.
And let me add one other thing to that, which is that the end of the ABC News story backed up what JR was saying yesterday, that he had heard through friends, etc., that the Cambridge Police Department does have a bit of a history of being overly aggressive, and that minority students at Harvard have often complained about being harassed, etc. So this is not something new, and given that context, it makes it a little worse. And then you could also argue, look, if this is the guy that's teaching other people how not to racially profile people, then he should be even more careful. And the fact that he wasn't that careful here leads you to more doubt. Look, the bottom line on this is, I think at this point, even though there are so many conflicting stories from both sides, I think I got a handle on it. And my bottom line on it is this. I can see why both sides got upset. I can see why it got a little out of hand. But you can't justify handcuffing and arresting a guy when you know it's already his house. And it seems clear that that's where they were at. So that's why the town has already apologized, obviously dropped the charges, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a hell of a thing to get beyond that. Now, Crowley says, no, I did the right thing, and I won't even apologize. So he's sticking to his guns. Luckily, he didn't draw any in that case. But it's definitely got everybody talking, no question.